Crater of Diamond State Park. It's located, if you're looking for it on the map, halfway between Hot Springs, Arkansas, and Texarkana, in a little town called Murfreesboro. It's a very unique spot. It's where an ancient volcano brought diamonds to the surface eons ago, and it's now a state park, which is very unique in that they allow you to pay a small fee and keep the diamonds you find. I am literally the guy that wrote the book on diamonds in Arkansas. And the reason I'm literally the guy is nobody could illiterally write a book on any topic. But anyhow, back in, it was April of 2003, I came out with my first edition of this book, and we had like 5,000 copies printed, and we had books stacked all over the house. But I kind of made myself the authority on the subject of diamonds in Arkansas. Nobody else had ever written the book, and I researched it. I didn't really set out to write a book on the subject. I was going to write a magazine article. And once I researched and got started, there was just so much to write in there. It didn't fit in a magazine article, so it ended up being a book. And then after those 5,000 copies finally disappeared, I rewrote the book. This is the second edition, and it came out in 2007. And then 2 years later, that batch was gone, and we came out with this edition in 2009. And when those were gone, we had another printing of this one. I didn't rewrite it or update it. Right now, I'm actively rewriting and updating the book because every day history happens out there. I wanted to kind of tell you a little of that history. Back in, when in 1842, a man named Powell realized that there was a peridotite. He recognized a peridotite there in near Murfreesboro, Arkansas, but that was no big deal at the time. At the time, diamonds were only found in alluvial gravels. They didn't know the host rock. Well, later, when they realized, they traced the diamonds back up the river to the source, and they realized they were washing out of this peridotite that they named kimberlite because it was near the town of Kimberley, South Africa. Once they realized that, then a couple of doctors of geology in Little Rock said, hey, we need to go back and revisit this site that Powell determined in 1842 was a peridotite. So doctors Branner and Brackett went out in 1889 and studied for a couple of weeks, did a microscopic study of the rock and everything, but they didn't find any diamonds, but they studied the rock and wrote a report. Well, then in 1905, an illiterate hog farmer bought 243 acres there, and he just signed an X on the paper and started making his payments on the land. And a year later, he found the first diamonds in Arkansas, a nice white one and a yellow one. And he thought it was a diamond, but he had trouble convincing other people. Finally, since he wouldn't shut up about it, somebody offered him 50 cents for his pretty crystal. He said, no, it's a diamond. So they sent it to St. Louis, and they ended up sending it on to New York, and it was determined it was a genuine diamond of exquisite quality. And then, when word came back then to the jeweler in Little Rock, he quickly formed a company with a banker and another guy that owned a business in Little Rock, and they said, now before word gets out that there are genuine diamonds here, we're going to form a company and try to buy it from Mr. Huddleston. So they did, and Huddleston paid $2,000 for it in 2005 and sold it for $30,000 in 2006. 1906 we're talking. And so Huddleston came out pretty good, and that was a lot of money back then. Well, right away they started mining for diamonds. They had a corporation set up, and their first attempt was real crude. And these were bankers and jewelers and didn't really know how to mine for diamonds, but they got an expert mining engineer in from South Africa, John T. Fuller, and he helped get them on the right track, and they tried some different processes. And one thing, you can buy equipment from South Africa and have it shipped in, but then the people running it have to know what they're doing. So, jobs were being offered to the local guys, and they thought, well, instead of picking cotton, we'll work for this company. Instead of being in the sun, we'll be working in the shade. And they used an African-style rotary wash pan, and that the tines on that need to be adjusted just right, or you end up throwing your diamonds out. Well, anyway, a lot of the early attempts threw out more diamonds than they caught. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to study the history. What all happened here? What did the mining companies do? Where did they dig? Where did they wash? And most importantly, where did they dump their tailings? Because I wanted to go back and get the diamonds they missed. Yeah, they did find a lot of diamonds, thousands of carats of diamonds, but I think they missed a lot of them too. In fact, my biggest diamond, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit, is one they missed. But I want to go back, before I tell any more of the history, when my first book came out, I dedicated it to the best diamond miner ever, James Archer. And the reason he was the best is he spent more time doing it than anybody. He was persistent, he just kept after it. And he found probably 5,000 diamonds. It's hard to know because he would find them and then sell them without registering them in his name, and then the tourists would go up and register it as if they found it so they could go home and tell everybody, look, I found a diamond. And I know he registered 95 in his name that weighed a carat or more, and only one out of every 34 diamonds at this state park weighs over a carat. But I want to show you, I brought some diamonds along so you can see. This is, when you find a diamond at the state park, they give you a certificate of authenticity and they sign it. They weigh the diamond, they write the color down, they record it. And this is a diamond James Archer found that we have in our personal collection. I know it's hard to see, they're small, diamonds are small, but this is a mackle, a 13-point triangular shape. Now, I'm going to be referring to points a lot, and you might have more familiarity with gold mining and grams and ounces and things, but in the diamond world, years ago they established a weight when they had little balance scales. A carob seed was pretty well standard weight, so they would always put a carob seed in one side of the balance scale, and then if you put a 1 carat gem in the other side, it was called 1 carat because it weighed the same as a carob seed. So now if you have something that weighs less than a carat, we divide that up into 100 decimal points of weight. So when I say this is a 13 point, that's 13 100ths of a carat. I've got it in this clear see-through thing. Also, James Archer found this diamond and registered it on his last day. He always said that when the good Lord calls me home, I want to be right here digging diamonds. Well, that's what happened. He was in his 70s, had a heart attack, and died at the Crater of Diamonds. And this diamond was registered on his last day, so we just keep that in our collection. Diamonds are small, so you got to look close. I've got some more diamonds to show you, but before I do, let me tell you, get on my most favorite subject, me. I've written magazine articles for different periodicals, and one of them was Rock and Gem magazine. And this diamond, I tell the story how when I first went to the Crater of Diamonds, I got all excited and I called my brother and he came and joined the hunt, and he was there for 2 weeks and only found one little one and got discouraged and went home. He left his hole open, and some farmers from Oklahoma came, and the first bucket they found an 8.61 carat brown diamond. Their name was Lamley, and they did well. Here it is next to a quarter, if you can see that picture, but a very nice diamond, and my brother narrowly missed finding it. He had also invited me, hey, do you want to dig in my hole? I'm leaving it. And I said, no, you didn't do any good over there, and I'm doing fine finding diamonds over here, so I didn't take him up on the offer. I also wrote an article for Eastern and Western Treasure magazine about digging up Arkansas diamond mining history. And then I wrote an article for the Bug quarterly magazine and this was about how to find diamonds in Arkansas. And then, so I'm telling you what I am. I'm a diamond miner and I'm a writer, but what I'm not is, I'm not a gemologist, I'm not a geologist, I've never even had a class in geology, but I've learned a lot along the way. What happened is, I'll tell you how I first heard about this and got involved in diamond mining, or addicted to diamond mining, as my wife would say. So back in the summer of '78, I was working construction in Kansas, and a guy came back from vacation. And we were all eating our lunch there, enjoying our delicious bologna and cheese sandwiches, and I said between mouthfuls, so, you know, where did you go on vacation? And he said, oh, well, I went to that diamond mine in Arkansas. And I thought, you went where? He said, oh yeah, there's a public diamond mine in Arkansas. And the diamonds are genuine. This isn't quartz crystal. These are genuine diamonds. And they allow you to keep what you find. You just pay a small fee to go in. At that time it was $2 a day. Now it's $15 a day. That showed you how long ago it was. But you pay a small fee, you get to search for diamonds, you get to keep what you find. And I said, well, that's great. I've never heard that there were diamonds in the U.S. Never heard of that. I thought it was all South Africa. And he said, no, it's the real deal. And, you know, it's not all that far south of here, a day's drive. And it's open to the public 7 days a week. And I said, well, how did you do in your week there? He said, well, I found $1,500 worth of diamonds. And I didn't need a calculator right there to figure out that I could make more money finding diamonds than I was working construction. So I did the only reasonable thing. I didn't show up for work the next day. I quit. And my brother and I drove down to Arkansas to check it out. And when we got there, paid our entrance fee, had driven a whole day, and got there early the next morning, stood at the edge of the field. You know, and I'm thinking diamond mine. I'm thinking a cave underground or something like that. And I stood at the edge of the plowed field thinking, sucker, tourist trap, you stepped right in it, a bear trap right on the ankle. And you drove all the way, spent a whole day driving from Kansas to see a plowed field. They've got plowed fields in Kansas. But I thought, well, we came all this way, so we might as well walk out here and see what it's like. And walked around in the dirt, unimpressed. It's just a field of dirt. But it's special dirt. It's volcanic soil that's been tilled. And I wandered around. There's 37-acre search field, and I went down to where some guys looked like they were really serious. There was like a old-style horse watering trough. And they were standing around it, washing stuff through screens, and it was muddy everywhere. They had the mud all stirred up. The area was called the Pig Pen, and you would know why if you had visited. But anyhow, I asked one guy if he was finding any diamonds. He said, oh yeah. I said, do you have any with you? He said, yeah. May I see them? And so he pulled a little glass vial out of his pocket and said, hold out your hand, and here we are with mud all around. And I thought, don't get him out of the vial. But he poured them into my hand, and the sun came in between the leaves of the tree as the wind was blowing it and would flash light across my hand, and they sparkled back up at me, and they were so beautiful. And they kind of said to me, we're real, we're here, we're beautiful, come try to find us. And we got him all back into his little vial, and I thanked him. And then I went back to find my brother and said, man, I got to do this. And he said, man, I got to get out of here. This is not for me. So we went back to Kansas. I got my wife and camping gear, and we camped out for 7 weeks. No, excuse me. Yeah, 7 weeks that summer of '78, and I found 10 diamonds. Now, my first one was a 21-point yellow, but we dug, hauled, and washed for 3 weeks without finding anything. And there was a learning curve, and I guess I'm a slow learner, but I was determined, so I stayed with it. I mean, I kind of had to. I burnt the bridge. I quit my job. So living in a tent, digging diamonds all day, and found a 21-point yellow, and I thought, man, I hope it's not 3 weeks till I find the next diamond. The next day, I found a 78-point yellow, and that means just a little over 3/4 of a carat. And I've got that diamond here right now, set in a ring that my wife can wear. It's absolutely gorgeous and perfect. And this is why I contracted a bad case of diamond fever and have not got over it yet. But beautiful diamond. I went on to find 10 diamonds in those 7 weeks, and the largest was a carat 20, but unfortunately it was a brown that had some problems. It had imperfections in it, but anyhow, you know, you take what you can get. And then I went back to normal life, got a job again, construction, and then had kids and would just come down on vacations from time to time. Then about 28 years ago, my wife and I moved to Murfreesboro. I had to move there for my health. I had a bad case of diamond fever, and you know, where else can you go? So moved down to be near the crater of diamonds, but you know, I still had to work a job during the week, and then on weekends I could dig for diamonds and things. So over the years, I've found 178 diamonds. The two largest weigh over 2 carats each. I found a perfect yellow, gorgeous 2.04 carat yellow Easter sunrise diamond. And then a 2.13 carat brown that I later had cut to a marquee. In fact, here's a picture of the cut diamond. And oh, you see that picture of the ring there? That's a 62-point white. That's a ring I have on my hand I wear all the time. I found the gold ring while dredging in the river, and then I found the diamond while digging at the crater, and I just had a jeweler put the two together, so I wear it all the time. And I wrote an article for, I had it upside down, but diamonds look the same upside or down, so, but the words are different. Anyway, these are my 2 largest diamonds compared to an Arkansas quarter, so you can kind of get a side reference. But I sent a bunch of pictures in with the article I submitted to Gold Prospectors magazine. Was having a gem issue, and the editor asked me if I would write an article. And I said, sure. And so I wrote the article and submitted photos, and she loved that cut brown so much that she made a 9-inch display of that cut brown diamond. Let me explain about the colors. There are white or clear. About 60% of the diamonds found at the state park are clear. 21% are brown, 17% are yellow. My personal favorite is the yellow, but I sure wouldn't throw this brown back. It turned out really good the way it was cut. Had it graded at the GIA, Gemological Institute of America, and it got a very good grade, so very high quality diamond. Kind of the funny thing, the editor said, oh yeah, we accepted your article and it's coming out in the next issue and all that. So I went to the post office, checked the mail, pulled the magazine out of the mailbox, and who was on the front cover? They put me on the front cover of Gold Prospector magazine, though it was kind of funny, kind of a shock. I sure wasn't expecting it, but you know, I had to go out and buy 5 copies for my mother. If you don't know the old Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show song, then you won't get it. But you got to be kind of old to get my kind of humor. But anyway, I made the cover, and another time when I found my 204 yellow, now I didn't write this article, but they put me on the front cover of Ouachita Life for finding a 204 yellow. It was a big deal. So I was happy to find that. Another thing, I've got some periodicals here to show you. So the National Geographic came to little old Murfreesboro, Arkansas, and wrote an article about diamond mining, and here's a picture of James Archer. And so I asked James to sign it for me, and he signed it, and he thought it was kind of funny, you know, it's like, I'm just a guy that digs mud and washes rocks, but I wanted him to autograph my copy, and I'm glad I did. And one other thing interesting about this issue, we we bought and sold diamonds from the prospectors. We didn't work in the store, we just kind of leased a space in a store there in town. But we bought diamonds from the prospectors and then repackaged them and sold them to tourists as souvenirs, basically, and as jewelry. And Dave Humphreys has a James Archer diamond, and he is, as I said, the best known diamond miner. He's been more successful than anyone because he's been more determined. But when we had this business of buying and selling diamonds, we did it for 20 years. We've been in business for 28 years. We made a shingle and hung the sign up outside, and when the National Geographic came, they liked our sign so much, they made a 2-page spread in their magazine, and man, I don't know what that kind of advertising would cost, but it paid off well for us since we didn't have to pay a dime for it. Another thing I've done is, way back before YouTube was a big deal, I hired a company to help me professionally record and produce a DVD that teaches people how to find diamonds. See, the book kind of tells the history of diamonds in Arkansas, but the DVD teaches them how to find diamonds. Well, now that YouTube's a big deal, this DVD is almost like saying, you know, I'm a singer and my first song's on an 8-track tape or something. They just don't do it this way anymore. But there's a lot of information on YouTube. In fact, we have a YouTube channel, Genuine Diamonds in AR, if you want to check that out. You know, I got hooked and worked and found a lot of diamonds. I found 178 so far, over 2 carats each. And it's been an interesting challenge. You know, you have to work within the park rules. You have to dig by hand, carry things by hand, wash by hand. They make it as hard as possible. And I always dreamed, wouldn't it be great if I could just buy one of the diamond pipes outside the state park and use a backhoe, use an excavator, use a bulldozer, use a skid steer, you know, instead of all this lifting. You know, as I got older, that sounded better. And I worked with Dave Humphreys in diamond exploration outside the state park. We had a multi-million-dollar diamond recovery plant there, and we sampled all of the 7 known diamond pipes that lie within 3 miles outside the state park. Well, I was able, my wife and I purchased a portion of one of those, and we imported diamond recovery equipment from South Africa, and we moved the overburden, dug down to the volcanic ore. We're running it through the plant and finding diamonds. So I'm living the dream. I'm retired now. I don't have to work all week on a regular job, so I can dig and wash, and I don't have to do it the hard way anymore. I get to use equipment. So it's really fun, and the YouTube channel has a lot of videos about how the diamond recovery plant works. I explain all that. It's very similar to gold. We have a huge trommel, and that all goes down into a smaller trommel, and then we have jigs. So it's all really fascinating and interesting. So to tell you a little more about the history of the site again, you know, they found the first diamonds in 1906, and by 1907 they were commercially mining diamonds there and finding them. Well, not all of the diamonds were on John Huddleston's farm. He had 243 acres, but the property line was in a bad spot. So a few of the acres were over on another property. Well, one diamond mining company started over here on the south end, and another competing diamond mining company started on the north end. And in the World War I era, 1913 to 1919, they had a state-of-the-art diamond recovery plant built and were finding diamonds. They were doing really well. And then in January of 1919, an arsonist burnt down their diamond recovery plant, and it shut them out of business. It's pitiful. It ruined all the equipment, burnt down the building, brought an end to it. At the south end, they continued to, well, they built a huge diamond recovery plant, and beautiful, nice setup. And they ran it and found a lot of diamonds until in the Great Depression, the demand for diamonds dropped off. because people would rather buy food than diamonds, the Great Depression brought a drop in the value. So they really closed the diamond mines about 1932. And it sat idle for a while. Then during World War II, there was an interest in diamonds because they needed them for tooling, for making artillery shells and everything else. They needed diamonds for the war production. And so there was an interest in it again. But just like the way the government works, said, well, we're going to study it to death first, while this war's going on. We need diamonds, we can't get them, but instead of just jumping in and mining diamonds, we're going to do a study on it. And anyway, they didn't do their study right, and then the war was over. So the government never did get involved, which is probably a good thing. And Glenn Martin, he was an aircraft manufacturer during World War II. He made a lot of money building aircraft for the war effort. He put in a diamond recovery plant there and spent money building it and put all the equipment in and all that, but it never did work right. The equipment, when you use a grease table, it has to be the right temperature. And either it was too cold or it was too hot, and it didn't catch the diamonds right. Anyway, they only found like 243 diamonds. It wasn't paying for itself. They shut it down. The building rotted and fell in. So one was shut down in 1919 because of arsonists. The other was shut down because of the Great Depression, then revived for a short while by Glenn Martin. But then it sat idle. And there was a guy who thought, this is a great tourism opportunity. We could draw people to this state to stay in the motels, eat at the restaurants, and hunt for diamonds. So he proposed that it become a state park, that people could come and hunt for diamonds and keep what they find. Well, the wheels of government turn really slow, and it didn't happen. So finally he started a company, and he called it Crater of Diamonds, and he said that the Diamond Preserve of America is open to the public in February of 1950. He didn't own the land. He leased it for $1,000 a month and hoped that ticket sales would be enough that he could make a profit. Spent a lot of money on advertising because you got to tell people what you got, what you're doing, and all that. Well, people came, but not enough to cover $1,000 a month, plus his other expenses, employees and all. So by November, tourism dropped way off in the winter, and he just said, I can't afford to do this anymore. His name was Talbot Fields, and he was an Arkansas state representative and kept trying to get the state to make it a state park, but they didn't. Well, then Howard Millar, who owned the north end, that had burnt down in 1919, he decided to continue it as a tourist attraction, and he didn't have to pay the $1,000 a month because he owned it. So it worked well with him. And some people found some big diamonds. In fact, I've got a postcard, if I can find it. I've got all kinds of things here if I can just find them. Well, anyway, there was a 15 1/3. I brought it to show you. A 15 1/3 carat diamond found there in the 1950s called the Star of Arkansas. And it cut to a beautiful marquee, and it was very valuable. It was flawless, and it really got a good free publicity for the Millar's Crater of Diamonds. Well, as Howard Millar got older, he wanted to retire and wanted to sell it to the state. And they made a deal. It became a state park in 1972. And the very next year, a retired janitor from Amarillo, Texas came with his family, and they looked, and they found the Amarillo Starlight, a 16 1/3 carat white diamond. It cut to a marquee as well. It was a very valuable diamond. So the news of the state park went far and wide. A lot of free publicity. Whenever a big diamond is found, they do a press release. They tell everybody. They don't have to pay for the ads or anything. It just say, hey, a visitor found a big valuable diamond, you know, and you can too. And so the tourists would just flock. So it really got their state park started off really well. And here's a yellow diamond, a 3 1/3 carat, a friend of mine, Harold Lay, found at the Crater of Diamonds, and they made it on a postcard. And of course he gets royalties for the photo. No, he doesn't. But anyway, he gets his diamond on a postcard. Here's another postcard. I brought you just a handful of diamonds from the crater so you can see what uncut diamonds look like. Everybody knows what a cut diamond looks like, but what does an uncut diamond from Arkansas look like? And that's one of the topics of one of my videos on the YouTube channel. And then here's another, just a row of the biggest and best diamonds from the crater. So you can see the range in color and quality, white, yellow, and brown, and some very unique diamond crystals. And they made it into a postcard, and that makes it easy for me to show you. And this is one of my favorite. An Oklahoma State trooper just decided on the spur of the moment to take his family, and they found this 4 1/3 carat diamond. It's just delicious. I get a little reflection here, but that is absolutely a beautiful diamond. One of my favorite. You may wonder, well, what's the biggest diamond ever found there? Well, the biggest diamond found, not in North America, but the biggest diamond found in the USA was found there at what is now known as the Crater of Diamonds. But before it became a state park in 1924, they were commercially mining it, and they found a 40 1/4 carat white diamond they called the Uncle Sam diamond. Not out of patriotism, as you might suppose with a name like Uncle Sam, but the guy working there, his name was Sam Bashan, and they called him Uncle Sam. So it's Uncle Sam's diamond because he found it. This diamond has now been cut to a 12 1/4 carat emerald cut and is on display at our nation's museum, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. It was recently acquired. So it's only been a year or two that it's been on public display there. Another diamond they have on public display, and I just love it. I might even be able to get a picture of it too. Oh yeah, this one at the top. This is a 17.86 carat yellow diamond that was found there in May of 1917. So more than 100 years ago, and it still remains uncut. I've seen this in person at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. The Smithsonian brought it to show it, and this yellow is right next to the cut Uncle Sam diamond. And I kind of need to run up to the Smithsonian and see all that. But so there's been great success as a state park, and tourists find diamonds there every day. The history is being made there every day, and I'd like to show you a few diamonds that have been found there. I might need to find my glasses first so I can tell you, so I'm going to look like Groucho Marx for a minute. And this is an 8-point yellow diamond I have in a necklace pendant that my wife can wear, you know. So when you have a little